G'day Australia, and thank you for joining us, and a big thank you to our Fujifilm faithful and all those people that are just curious to learn a little bit more about our exciting new product, the new Fujifilm X-S10. My name is Warwick Williams. I'm the National Training Manager for Fujifilm Australia, and I'll be running through a short X-S10 presentation, after which we'll play a pre-recorded interview with professional photographers Julia Trotti and Louis Ascui, who will give their thoughts regarding our latest addition to the Fujifilm X range. Then I'll turn over control to Will Anlazak, our field and technical sales support specialist, to carry on the discussion live with Julia and Louis, and then we'll be able to take your questions at that stage. Of course, behind the scenes is our digital communication specialist, Neil Pash. So, as they say, let's get on with the show. Introducing the new Fujifilm X-S10. A camera for people who are looking to find a combination of performance and quality for stills and video at an affordable price. At first glance, the most distinctive feature is its easy-to-use PSAM mode dial that is somewhat of a departure from the usual X-style ISO, shutter speed, and EV dial combination. While this is certainly a camera perfect for users new to the Fujifilm brand, I don't think it will disappoint our current users either. While aimed at the enthusiast market, the X-S10 in many ways creates its own category. Its simplicity of operation could place it at the amateur level. However, its high performance, pro features, and great image quality could also place it in the pro area alongside our flagship X-T4. It lacks none of the quality and features that would satisfy a professional, but what it does have as well is the ease of use that would assist and please an enthusiast, an amateur, or even someone totally new to cameras and photography. Performance is provided by something not usually seen in mid-range cameras, a quad-core processor that offers fast autofocus, accurate autofocus tracking, and face and eye detection, and a whole lot more. Now, you might expect with so much packed into its compact body, it would be quite heavy, but X-S10 is only 465 grams, including a battery and card. And even with IBIS, it is still substantially smaller and lighter than our previous stabilized cameras, X-H1 and X-T4. X-S10 might be small and its IBIS system may have shrunk, but it offers big camera stability, and even features a 6-stop 5-axis in-body image stabilization system we call IBIS that gives you the freedom to go handheld and capture the action anywhere. This image stabilization system will help keep your photos sharp and your video steady no matter what conditions you face. Its deep hand grip affords solid, confident handling with any kind of lens attached, while placement of the controls is intuitive to ensure effortless operation, no matter what camera system you have become used to in the past. You'll get around 325 shots from the lithium-ion battery that is so small and compact, it's very easy to carry 1 or 2 spares in your pocket or handbag, so you'll always have the power to preserve a special memory. Pictures and video are recorded easily to SD or XDSC memory cards, up to 512 gig, and like the batteries, of course, spares are easily carried. Now, not all people appreciate the traditional manual dials that may look confusing or overwhelming to people without a photographic background. The single mode dial offers simplified operation and easy selection of the various operating modes. The 4 custom settings on the mode dial are so easy to use. Simply select your desired settings that adjust your camera to suit your purpose, and it's done. Anytime you want to use that setup again, simply select that custom setting on the mode dial again. Let's have a quick look at the mode dial functions, and please note how the front, rear, and function dials change to suit the mode selected. It's very simple. That main dial there, you can choose program mode, which is like an automatic mode, shutter priority, aperture priority, or manual mode. Of course, there's the auto, SP, and filter settings, and I really want to talk a little bit more about the auto and SP a bit later because something has changed in those. And of course, you've got, very obviously, the movie setting on there, and your custom settings we've already mentioned. Also note that while the top buttons have pre-assigned roles and are labelled very clearly, their function may actually be changed by the user to suit personal taste, as are 3 of the function buttons on the rear of the camera. In fact, overall, there are 6 function buttons, 1 function dial, and even 4 touchscreen swipe functions that may be easily customized to suit user preference. The 8-way focus lever on the rear may be used to set focus points as well as scroll through menus and make selections, and also be used to review your images. Touch functionality includes being able to use focus and shooting controls just by touching the screen. For playback, the screen operates just like a smartphone for reviewing pictures. X-S10's eyepiece is a 2.36 million dot EVF with a high refresh rate of up to 100 frames per second, so it's always clear and easy to see. It's also automatically activated just by holding the camera to one's eye, so you'll always have easy access and clear viewing at all times. X-S10 comes with a vari-angle screen to allow shooting or viewing from any angle, even vlogging, and it can also be folded away to protect the viewing screen surface, or if one would rather just use the electronic viewfinder. A concealed pop-up super intelligent flash doesn't just illuminate subject matter, but provides the perfect balance of sensitivity and lighting for any given scene within a 2-meter range. Of course, being a high-end X camera means having X-Trans CMOS Sensor 4 design. So this offers picture quality comparable to bigger, heavier, more expensive full-frame cameras. The X-S10 utilizes a high-speed performance of the X-Trans CMOS 4, which is also a back-illuminated structure and features phase detection pixels across the entire surface sensor. Combined with new advanced autofocus algorithms and the X-Processor 4, the camera delivers exceptional autofocus performance. The X-S10, like the professional-grade X-T4, has the ability to focus fast and accurately in low light, lock onto human faces and eyes, and track moving subjects with ease, providing you with added confidence to capture that decisive shot. Now, Fujifilm has been producing photographic films for over 85 years, and in this time, it has developed a legendary reputation. Some of the world's most renowned photographers have chosen Fujifilm to capture some of the world's best-loved images. For those not familiar with Fujifilm cameras, a new help system provides easy-to-understand descriptions of the various features, including additional information about our famous film simulations. Just press the Q button while choosing one, and you'll get a whole history of the film simulation, and you can make your choice with an informed style. Fujifilm film simulation modes were created to celebrate our film heritage by digitizing some of the industry's most iconic analog films and placing them at your fingertips. The X-S10 features 18 film simulation modes, including a Turner Bleach Bypass, the latest addition to this much-loved collection, which creates a beautiful desaturated high contrast look that many professionals prefer. Fujifilm's latest technology supports enhancing images in every scene whilst in auto and SP scene position modes. This surely must be X-S10's key selling feature, I think. The X-S10's automatic point and shoot mode doesn't just provide generic AF, SS and f-stop settings, but analyzes the scene to provide the best, most appropriate shooting and solution, and if necessary, decides which of the specialized image enhancement features are necessary to improve picture quality. Now you don't need to be an expert to take advantage of these modes. X-S10 will do it for you, if you want. For instance, once X-S10 has detected a landscape is being recorded, it can not only select an appropriate film simulation, but having detected a blue sky, may add the Color Chrome FX Blue feature, and perhaps also add some of the clarity effect to enhance the image even more. All this is accomplished in the blink of an eye. And of course, all these features and more can be user selected if so desired. It's actually like having a professional photographer helping you. The auto film simulation selection literally is like having a Fujifilm camera expert there choosing the best shooting solution for any picture. This is something very new. Also new is the ability to shoot in RAW while in the auto and the SP modes. This means for even amateurs, you can have your pictures professionally processed later on. And also something else new is a selectable autofocus mode. So if you don't like the camera's focusing decisions, you can either override them easily at any time. This camera is as simple or as complicated as you want it. You could learn or even hone your photographic skills on X-S10. Like all Fujifilm cameras, X Pro 3's biggest selling point is its ability to record images with unsurpassed color quality. Skin tones especially, we're famous for. It's something we call color memory, and even with landscapes, this comes through loud and clear. And color also comes into our multiple exposure mode. This multiple exposure mode can shoot 8 frames, and you can actually choose how the camera combines them together. The picture in question here is actually just done with 3 images and are all saved and processed inside the camera. For more outrageous effects, there of course are the advanced filters. After all, why shouldn't you try something different occasionally? From still photography, we move on to movie making. Video is becoming an increasingly important means of expression for people all around the world, so it's essential to have a camera that can excel in both still photography and videography, and X-S10's outstanding movie making abilities provide the perfect solution. It's literally everything you need for point and shoot or professional filmmaking. The instant record button means all you have to do to record a video is press the red button, and X-S10 will record in its automatic program auto exposure mode. You don't have to worry about anything other than your subject matter. If you want to get more serious and choose all the settings, including film simulation mode, special effects, etc., of course you can. Just select the dedicated movie setting on your mode dial. What a great way to learn how to shoot movies. You can see how many top-end features are present in X-S10 by comparing it to the professional X-T4 model. And we are already planning for the future with the drone and gimbal compatibility upgrade. Another feature of X-S10 is the heavy-duty magnesium alloy front cover that provides substantial protection. But what does this have to do with the movie mode? The front cover actually acts as a heat sink for the new cooling system that allows more effective heat dissipation and therefore longer movie recording times. In fact, up to 30 minutes of continuous 4K movie recording. A new and very useful feature is the time counter that shows available card capacity in hours and minutes in standby mode and shows recording time in minutes and seconds in the record mode. X-S10 is an extremely versatile camera, and when you combine this with the choice of 35 different high-quality lenses, the possibilities are endless. As part of the Fujifilm X series, X-S10 is compatible with the award-winning Fujinon XC, XF, and MK movie lenses. There's a Fujinon lens to suit every Fujifilm camera and every purpose. And talking about lenses, here's a sneak peek of a new Fujinon lens. Well, it's really a revision of an old favourite, the Fujinon XF10-24, with the new weather-resistant design and an updated aperture ring with an auto lock position. I'm sure everyone is going to enjoy this lens. But enough peeking, let's get back to the X-S10. X-S10, like many other Fujifilm cameras, can also be used as a webcam for live streaming or online meetings. Take advantage of the free Fujifilm webcam software. The latest version even allows use of your camera's film simulation modes. The 3.5mm mic port has been conveniently placed out of the way of the screen for easier vlogging. The USB-C port can be used for data transfer, battery charging, and headphone monitoring, and the adapter cable is included with the camera. Also, download the free Fujifilm Camera Remote app for your smartphone that allows live viewing and remote control of your camera. The app also notifies you of the latest firmware releases and can even process the firmware upgrade. It's so easy, anyone can do it. And if you prefer to use the old-fashioned method, downloading the file, copying it to the card, and upgrading that way, you can still do that as well. Perhaps you've been put off by the high cost of image processing software. Capture One Express for Fujifilm is free and supports raw conversion of files from X and GFX range cameras. It's free, just download it from the Phase 1 website. In summary, X-S10 is designed to be simple and minimalist on the outside, but still enjoys Fujifilm's renowned image-making technology at its heart. It's small and lightweight, but still incorporates the in-body image stabilization system. It has simple, easy-to-use controls based around its PSAM mode dial, and there are plenty of high-quality shooting features aside from its new advanced automatic mode. And there are plenty of fabulous features to satisfy movie makers as well. All this backed by our world-famous Fujifilm color rendition. The X-S10, coming to a store near you very, very soon. And now let's cross to the Julia Trotti Lewis Ascui interview that was pre-recorded a couple of days ago. I think you'll find this most interesting. And if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments section, and Julia Lewis and the Fujifilm team will be ready to answer them after the interview.
Hey everybody, we're here with Lewis Ascui and Julia Trotti, and we're going to have a quick chat about the new Fujifilm X-S10, which we have right here. Hey guys, how are you all doing?
Hi, good.
Hey, how are you, Will?
Yeah, not too bad. We're going to have a quick chat about sort of it, because I know you guys
I can breathe.
The product for about the last month and a half. Julia's recently sent hers back to me, but Lewis, you've still got the one that I sent out to you as well. So we're going to have a quick chat about sort of the product in general, how you guys found it, what your thoughts of it were, and what the project was that I asked you to sort of do. But we might start this off by introducing yourself. So Julia, do you want me to tell me a little bit about yourself, what you do as photography, and sort of who you are, I suppose?
Yeah, my name is Julia Trotti, and
I
I'm
just
a
switched my
portrait,
mobile off. I'm worried that
fashion,
the phone was
and
going to
wedding
ring.
photographer.
I
And
message,
I
you
also
know.
have a YouTube channel as well, which is all about
apparently we can still
photography,
hear
of course,
Warwick
where
in the
I
live
upload
stream.
creative photo shoot behind the scene videos. I do camera reviews, lens reviews, Lightroom tutorials, comparisons of gear, and things like that. Yeah, that's me.
Can you
basically.
check that, Neil?
It's a lot. And
Dan just
and
said
Lewis,
that he could still hear
so
Warwick
if
over
you could
the,
explain who you
the
are as
video.
well, because you have a very big body of work and you've been everywhere.
Hi, my name is Lewis. I'm a photographer based in Melbourne. I, concentrate mostly in documentary work and photojournalism. And I love traveling, but obviously not that much now. I'm stuck. But yeah, look, I just follow stories that of great interest to me. So wherever that may take me, I'll try and go.
Awesome. So as I said before, you guys have both had the X-S10 since about early August. I can't remember when I sent it to you, but early August, I think, somewhere around there, with the idea of sort of creating some video content for us to release the camera. So I thought I'd just ask you guys about it. If you could, let's start with Lewis, because we're already on his screen. Lewis, tell me what the project was that I set out for you: the camera, the lens, the film simulation, et cetera, and how you took about using it and what you were documenting with it.
Yeah, look, it was quite difficult at first trying to think of an idea, but then you realize I'm living in a COVID secured state, which, we are under strict lockdowns. And so one of the project that discussed with Will was to try and how can I approach documenting this, lockdown that we're living in. At the same time as, I was still fortunate enough that because I work in the media, that I was able to go out, whenever I could to, photograph what was going on around town. And one of the things that I managed to document outside my household was that there was a lot of anger, outside, people feeling locked down, and so also a lot of fear, of course. So yeah, I documented, the angst in the streets of Melbourne. I also realized that I have 3 kids. They were, all doing homeschooling. So I started photographing our daily walks with our family, because we were allowed to do 1-hour walk. That was quite nice. I really enjoyed it. It's almost like things that we took for granted. It became a necessity as a family to just go and talk, catch up as a family. And so I started documenting that within my household. And the task that I was given is to shoot, which, I fell in love with it already because I'm a black and white person. So I was asked to shoot across, and to me, that's I didn't argue the point. Yep, that's for me. And so it's to me, it just reminded me of the good old film days, where I could just focus not on everything that goes around, but by photographing black and white, I was able to bring people in to what I wanted them to see, what I wanted them to feel, rather than when I shoot color, there are more layers in the image. And I find that in many ways, sometimes you can open up for greater interpretation. And I find black and white, for me, it just takes them, to an emotional roller coaster where you know where you're going, and I'm trying to make you feel what I'm feeling.
I also made it particularly difficult for you because directly as lockdown was starting, you requested to borrow an XF100 to 400, which is like the polar opposite of what a documentary photographer would usually shoot. In my opinion, I think most documentary photographers are usually like right in on the action, and something fairly wide like that 28 or the 35 equivalent. They tend to be what most documentary or street photographers shoot with.
No. You're right, and the only reason why I needed that lens is because a lot of the things were happening. Like when a newspaper would send you to photograph what's happening at a retiring home, and that you couldn't get access, you couldn't get too close, because of police lockdowns or what have you, and I didn't have that range, and I needed that lens, to fulfill my work requirements, because I'm obviously there to work with for a media entity, and I needed to have that range. But for me, like I hardly ever use long lenses. Put it this way, I think my 10 to 24 Fuji lens has been stuck to the same camera for a long time.
And Julia, what did you get given for this task?
I had the XF 35mm 1.4, which I find is a really nice focal length for portrait photography. So that's what I did for the straight out of the camera challenge. I did an on location natural light portrait photo shoot, and my whole photo shoot was about bringing in the location to the portraits and creating a connection between the subject and the images and the location mixed in with the lighting all together. And so I feel like the 35 is great for portraits. It's you can get a nice variety of photos, which is what I did on the day. I got some really stunning close-ups of our subject. We can also get some kind of mid-length shots as well. I was playing a lot around with the perspective of the photos that I was taking, because we were in a pretty plain looking location. So I did want to try and create like a variety of shots to kind of have a story all together with the photos. And then you can also very easily get some further away shots as well without having to move like too far away from your subject. Because something that I really like is being able to be close to my subject so I can kind of talk to them and give direction and kind of make that personal connection, which I feel helps in making that connection in the photos.
Very cool. So how did you both find the camera? I heard you guys talking about it before, and Lewis, you were explaining how much you enjoyed using the LCD for this, which is, I suppose, a bit different, which I'm also finding I'm doing a lot more myself with my own photography. Is I'm using the flip down screen a lot more to get angles that are lower and sort of in there without sort of looking through the eyepiece as much as I used to. So maybe we'll sort of go with Lewis. Tell me about what you found about the camera and what was interesting and what were you using that was different to how you traditionally shoot.
As I mentioned earlier, one of the things that I loved a lot is the way you can really tilt that screen. And you can really get so many different angles. If I shoot at a different angle, it's because I'm trying to conceptualize what that angle implies. It's purely because I want to show a different, meaning behind that image. It rather than just, like go high and I can see the crowd. To me, that makes no difference. It's just to try and accentuate the meaning that I'm trying to convey. To me, it was just wonderful. It's like I could do certain things that I couldn't, do, or sometimes I wanted to do, but because I couldn't see it, what I was doing, I didn't really attempt it. Otherwise, it would have just been guesswork, so I really enjoyed that. And I found myself using this screen much more than the viewfinder.
Julia, what did you like about the camera that you'd sort of picked up? Because you'd previously just reviewed, coming off this, before this, you just reviewed X Pro 3, XT4, an X100V. Yeah, so you just had like most of our current lineup, and then you got given this. So how did you find it in comparison to those cameras?
When I first looked at the camera, I was kind of surprised that there weren't as many dials on the camera. And I was like, well, this is different. But I do think that it is like a nice simplified, like kind of modern take on Fujifilm camera designs. And even though for the straight out of the camera challenge, I was using Astia, I do like how it has the shortcut dial for the film simulation. So I ended up using it for some other photo shoots, and it was just so easy to flick it around to play around with some different emulations. So that's something that I really liked about it. And then I also found that I really love the LCD. It's like super crisp and clear and easy to see. And the viewfinder was really nice too. I felt really comfortable shooting with it. During our shoot, I feel like the fields were super bright. So I ended up using the viewfinder a lot more often.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, it was really nice.
I've only used the camera a couple of times because it's been with you guys, but taking it out, I have found it very useful. And going back to, I've actually got it here. So coming from this and having things being able to be set the way that you want to use the camera, you do become comfortable with it quite quickly in having your command dial doing shutter speed, or your command dial doing ISO, or just adjusting the camera to work the way that you want it to in your head. And I currently have my T4 set up the same way when I'm shooting videos, so that I'm using command dials for shutter speed.
Yeah, for me, it felt just very comfortable. And like I set up the camera once to be like kind of how I want it to be set up. And then while I was shooting it, I wasn't even thinking about what my hands were doing. Like they were just changing settings, and like it just felt kind of second nature to me.
Yeah, gotcha. Did anyone use the auto setting while they were sort of doing it, or didn't play around? Both of you had it set to manual and completely dialed in exactly what you wanted. Yeah, cool. Most people will use the camera in that way, but the auto setting, this is shameless plug. But the auto setting this is the first time it's had RAW added to it as well, which we've previously had JPEG as the only setting as soon as you go into auto. Now it can do RAW, which is a little bit good. If you are sharing this camera with... Yeah. If you are sharing this camera with someone, or you're traveling and, you don't trust them to possibly dial in everything quite correctly, you can just leave them and the camera will work it out, and you can fix it in post. So after using the X-S10, who do you think that this camera is for?
I personally think that, certainly travel photographers, street photographers, and vloggers, people who are going to want to have a lot of control over their image. They're not going to be wanting to carry so much equipment and not suffering the quality of it, and also the fact that it's got the mic input. You could do so much more than the other cameras.
Yeah, it has the very angled screen as well. So if you want to vlog with it, you can flip it around to be facing yourself, which is great. I played around with a lot of the video stuff in the camera too, and I love what the footage looks like. I used Eterna Cinema for those video files, and it looks so beautiful straight out of the camera.
I was hoping you'd talk about video because I know you used it for it.
Yeah, it's great.
The grip, I just love the grip.
Yeah. Even though it's like a tiny camera, it has quite a large grip because I have quite big hands too. So it felt really nice to hold on to.
Sturdy, doesn't it? Feel like, you're holding something that is tangible rather than something that is going to, flimsy, And, I love cameras that, it's really funny because if I grab a camera and it feels too light, I was like, it's not for me. It has to have a bit of, weight, not so much, because you don't want to carry a big camera, but makes you feel like you're holding something proper.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like also the camera itself is quite small, and especially if you pair it with like an XF f2 lens, like the 23, for example, those are very small lenses.
Yeah.
So altogether, that would be like a very unobtrusive kind of camera to do street photos with, or video as well, which I really liked.
Yeah. If you look at it, if you have a look, I've actually, just for comparison here, because we're talking about it, I do actually have that combination. So I've got the 35 f2 here, and then I've got the XT30 next to it. They are so similar in physical size.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm actually correctly focusing, but we'll say.
Yeah, you can see the grip there.
Yeah, so the grip is significantly different to the XT30. It's quite interesting, isn't it? So yeah, I do think you're right. I really think people who are traveling or are valuing size and weight a little bit more over something maybe like the XT4, because they are using quite similar sensors, pretty much the same sensor, but it is just bringing it down, making the IBIS smaller, making the body smaller, and adding a larger grip for it. It is quite impressive, the image quality coming straight out of this camera.
Yeah, absolutely. To me, I really enjoyed using it.
So where can people find you guys? We can tag you guys at the bottom. So maybe Julia, if you want to start with some of your social media and where you are.
Yeah, well, my social media is Julia Trotti on everything. So you can find me on YouTube and Instagram are my main platforms.
Yeah,
and my website is juliatrotti.com as well.
Yeah, I had a look at that recently. That was cool.
Yeah.
And Lewis, yourself, do you have any places where people can follow your work?
Yeah, look, my website is mediaculture.com.au, and my Instagram is @LewisAscui, ASCUI. And that's it. And I got Facebook as well, Lewis Ascui.
Okay, so I guess from this point here, we're probably going to just cut back to Q&A. So, yeah, cool.
Great interview, guys. Now I'm pleased to introduce live Fujifilm's Will and Lazar with our guest photographers Julia Trotti and Lewis Ascui for our Fujifilm question time. Take it away, Will.
Hey, everybody. How are we doing? Can everyone hear me? From there, I'm just checking if everything's coming through. Julia, you there?
Mm-hmm. I can hear you.
Cool. And Lewis, you coming through fine?
Yeah, I'm fine. Thank you.
There we go. Fantastic. So we're going to go through a few questions that have been asked in the YouTube comments now. So if you want to hear any of your questions answered, please follow them through as we're going through these. But right now, I'll just do a couple that I actually had because I was listening to that whole presentation. I thought the X-S10 to 24 version 2, Lewis, that considering you spoke recently about how much you loved the original version, what were your thoughts?
Sorry, what did you say?
The X-S10 to 24 version 2, the Mark II. What are your thoughts? Because it seems like it will be a new lens that you're going to add to your kit.
Oh, look, can't wait for it. The 10 to 24, when it first came out, the original, the first thing I did was get that lens, buy that lens. And it's been through, war zones with me, really. And it's been tear gas, it's been water cannon, you name it. And, I haven't dropped it, thank goodness, but I just cannot wait to get my hand on that because it will be my to-go lens. I'm a wide-angle photographer, so it's the kind of lens would just fit very, very loving on my camera.
Yeah, very cool. And I had another question as well. Julia, in regards to video, because I know you just did a review on the X-S10 and you spoke a little bit about video. Can you speak a little bit about it here and how you found it in comparison to, say, the X-T4, because you've used both recently?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I haven't done a lot of video on the X-T4. I have done a bit, but I found the IBIS in the X-S10 to be like really smooth. I really like that it wasn't like jello-y at all and it wasn't jaggedy. Just like, yeah, just really buttery smooth. Even with like a lot of movement and walking around, you can't really see those footsteps when you're walking and filming. So yeah, I really enjoyed using it for video and the IBIS was great.
Yeah, cool. I have two questions for you. I understand you've got a bit of construction going on in the background of what you're doing, so do the best to answer what you can. So we've got two questions. One is in regards to the RRP and the availability for the X-S10. Are you able to go on to that? And the second question, you can follow this on directly after, is and you don't have to answer this if there is no direct answer because we probably don't know, but people are asking when bleach bypass will be added to other cameras such as the X-T3.
That's a difficult question. I really don't have the answers to much of that. I believe the camera is going to be on the shelves around about the 19th. I personally don't have the retail price as yet. I'm sure someone must know that. I think that's about all I can really say for that.
There are three combinations that the X-S10 is coming out in, and you will be able to pick them up from stores that you can actually log into your favorite Fujifilm retailer right now, and a lot of them have them for pre-order in the 3 iterations that they're already at. So we'll go on to the next question, which was kind of already answered in the comments, but I thought I'd add on to it. Does the new X webcam software work with Mac iOS? So it wasn't traditionally released with Mac. It was traditionally for Windows, but Mac was shortly added directly after. And I'm actually filming on my XT4 through Mac through X Webcam OS. So you can see that right now. My image is coming through that software.
Well, it definitely works on Mac because I use a Mac as well, and I have tried the X-S10, and it does work.
Very cool. What battery does this camera use? So I'll pass that one on to Julia.
It uses the W126S, which I believe is the same. Is that what it's called?
Yeah. Good job. It's NPW126S. It's currently, that's it. It's currently using the same battery that we've had running through pretty much since the X Pro 1, sort of. The MPW126 original was on that one, and then the S came out shortly after. But all of those batteries will work in the current X-S10. We have a question which I think is directed at both myself and Woz, which is, where can we get some of those fancy pants X series shirts that we're wearing? Very funny.
Yes, with the epaulets. I'm glad you asked that question because I get asked that question a lot.
Yeah.
That would have to. I'll ask our marketing manager that one because I have these made myself.
If you have enough comments, I'm the same. I actually got a big bunch of these made up for store stuff a few years ago, and I may have pinched a couple, so I made them my regular attire for Fujifilm work. But if you are interested in some of these shirts, maybe we could possibly get a run done. Put some notes in the comments and we'll go through that.
Start a merch store.
Yeah, start a Fujifilm merch store.
That's exactly right.
That's it. We have a few more questions, but Dan, Julia's partner, is answering some of them in the comments already because he's awesome. But we will go with it. So I've been asked, does it have a 3.5mm mic jack, which it does. So you can look up here on the side. You'll be able to see it, hopefully, if the camera manages to focus there. But they've actually moved it in quite a unique position. So previously on, say, the T4, we had it underneath your little, what's the word I'm going to look here? Flap. Flap is probably not the classiest of words, but it's directly under the same slot where you'll find a lot of your other ports. But they've moved it into a much nicer position on the X-S10, which is very cool. There's a few more comments coming through. I'll pass this one on to Warwick because I personally don't know because I haven't used it for this. Does the X-S10 support tethering?
No, and not at the moment.
Not at the moment.
That's a dangerous question.
Yeah,
I don't know how I can answer that.
As everyone would know, with most of our stuff, we do release firmware updates, so nothing is quite out of the realms of possibility at any point, just due to firmware. But I think, as Warwick said, I don't know if this is something that will come out with it. Lewis, you got a very kind comment from Keith in the comments. He said, great vision and composition from Lewis in his photographs. Can Lewis talk about what he has learned about composition in documentary photography? So you can actually go on quite a tangent here, Lewis, and tell us about some of your career and what's helped and guided you to shoot the way that you do now.
Yep, that's okay. Look, simply for me, when I photograph, I originally had a very good teacher that the first thing he did, he just taught me about the laws or the rules of composition. And in the beginning, I tried to learn to use them, and then it just became second nature, so to speak. So moving forward from that, to me, any photograph that you take, if you learn to compose, and no matter who you photograph, it could be the most important person in the world, or it could be just a child in this, or a person. If you learn to compose, whether by using lines or light or texture, I find that the image will slow you down as a viewer and just captivate you. To me, one of my favorite, I was mentioning to Will a while ago, one of my favorite photographers is Sebastião Salgado. And one of the things that I love about him is that it was during the era of the whole African, famines, where, we're just being bombarded with visuals and images where people were turning off. We weren't really, instead of trying to understand what was happening in certain parts of the world, people were being turned off by this in-your-face kind of style of imagery. But when Sebastião Salgado came, he was doing exactly the same imaging. But what I liked about him is that the way he composed, the way he used lines and light, it slowed you down. It allowed you to spend an extra 20 seconds looking at an image that you could learn from, could, really, you didn't just turn the page. It was such a his images have been and still are so captivating that, the way he just, visually, he makes us stop, slow, watch, observe, and then we begin to ask questions. So to me, a photograph has to be composed, has to be, it has to have a way of me guiding you to where what I want you to see, rather than just allowing you to. It's like going to a toy store. You take a child to a toy store. Originally they want one toy, but as soon as you walk in, they look at everything. They get lost. They get confused. So for me, an image, I need to guide you to what I need you to see because I was there. And that, to me, that's why I find composition is really important, to give you that immersive feel.
Yeah, very cool. I actually really loved a lot of the images that came through for you, and they were very powerful, like you were saying, and especially because you paired them with Acros, which was part of, obviously, the straight out of camera competition. You were able to completely direct where people were viewing parts of the image, and you were using your composition really to guide frames inside frames and really forcing the viewer's eye to where you wanted it to be. So it was very impactful stuff, Lewis. I was very impressed.
It was for us here in Melbourne is quite hard because one of the dilemmas that I had while I was doing that is that I had two bosses, so to speak. One where I was testing the camera and the lens. And obviously I was shooting along with the 100 to 400. And as you know, I don't use long lenses that often. But then for me to get that pass, because I had a working, but I was working for other entities. So I was trying to produce images for two sides of the brain. It was quite difficult, but I enjoy a challenge.
Yeah, for sure. So I've got a question here, but I'm going to reword it slightly to make it harder for everybody. So the question is, how do you find the new dial controls? But I'm going to ask a more broad question: is which did you prefer out of the two? Because there's two sets of controls. We now have the new version on the X-S10, and we have the previous version on the X-T4. So they are very different, and realistically, you can make the X-T4 act in a very similar way if you want to, anyway, by changing the dials to your C modes and your T mode on your shutter speed. But which did you prefer out of the two? Either of you. Julia, we'll start with Julia.
I kind of like both of them for different reasons. I feel like the X-T4, like the external dials, make you feel kind of more involved in the photography process. It's like a little bit more creative and fun. And then the X-S10 is really nice as well because it just kind of feels like everything's just right there underneath your fingers. So you can kind of shoot really easily without thinking about things as you're changing settings. Yeah, so I feel like they're both good, but for their own different reasons, if that makes sense.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, look, for me, it was very similar. I'm an old school, so I like the dials and all of those things that you get in the X-T4, X-T3s, But at the end of the day, once I got the camera, sorry, I got.
You've dropped out. Yeah, this is such a 2020 issue to have this happening in the middle of a live stream. There we go. Yeah. Fantastic.
Once I had the camera, it took me, a few hours to work, how the system worked. And then after that, I was able to really focus and concentrate on the image taking. To me, it was easy. It was relaxed. Instead of being overwhelmed with, with technology, I could just concentrate on the photo taking, and that's what I liked about it. And I've mentioned before, I love the screen. I just love the screen on this camera, and I ended up using the screen more often than I did, the viewfinder, because it just was, to me, worked beautifully.
Yeah, you commented quite a bit on changing perspective by being able to use the LCD screen in that way. And I've found the same thing from using the LCD screen, is you are able to get a completely different perspective than what I would have previously been comfortable with using the eyepiece. And I found that's been a transition with mirrorless as a whole, that it is more enabling to use an LCD. It's very different. We'll skip on. Sorry, go on.
So the great thing about what I like about this screen, to me, in this camera, and particularly this new release, is that I've mentioned before, to me, I use angles not because I can't reach. I use angles because I'm trying to emphasize a different sense of going back.
Oh, he's dropped out.
So for me to be able to move the screen, I can actually, make it a high image because I'm trying to insinuate something, or I can have a lower angle or what have you, because I'm trying to accentuate some kind of message. And, for me, the screen was great. It's like I could do whatever I wanted with it almost.
Yeah. Julia, how did you find the two between the two? Were you using the EVF or the LCD? I think you spoke about it in your video a little bit.
Yeah, in our the Fujifilm shoot, I was using the EVF a lot just because we were in a very bright, sunny location. So I just wanted to be able to see everything that I was getting properly, and also because it was a straight out of the camera challenge, I wanted to make sure my colors and exposure were correct. And then I did some other more creative shoots afterwards, and I loved using the LCD. Like Lewis said, it's just very clear and just fun to use. And I like shooting with the LCD because I feel like I can more easily make a connection with my subject. Like, it's a lot easier to give direction and to talk to them, and you feel just a bit more connected. So I feel like that comes through in the photo as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure.
Just to add to that, one of the things that I liked, when I was shooting, particularly the protest, what was really interested is that because the screen to me was, quite efficient, it worked really nice. I could see exactly what I was getting in terms of composition. But at the same time, sometimes the problems when you're shooting certainly news or documentaries that you alienate yourself from what's going on in front of you. So, so by having the screen and just looking at the picture, then you're also looking at everything around you. So you're no longer, someone who's away from the situation, but you are part of the situation because you can use all your senses, and I enjoy that.
That's very interesting, especially because that's traditionally been why people use rangefinders, right? Because you keep
because you could see outside the frame.
That is very cool. Very cool. We have another question here in regards to favorite film simulations. So we might go around the table a little bit here and start with Warwick, then myself, then Julia, then Lewis. So Warwick, what is your favorite film simulation on our cameras?
Velvia. I actually, that comes from, I suppose, I started shooting pictures in the 70s. Oh, did I say that? And I used Fujifilm Velvia back then, and so it's nice. I do like the classic chrome option though. It actually reminds me of the way my dad's pictures used to look back in the 50s and 60s. But I think Velvia is beautiful, especially for landscapes and such like. So I think
it's very cool.
That's it.
I personally love the traditional film stock of Acros. And when we brought it into our current cameras, I was overjoyed, especially the way you can dial it in. And I tend to even shoot Acros when I'm shooting RAW, purely because I like to see everything differently. I like to see it in black and white, the same way that Lewis described before, being able to remove distractions of color. Being able to shoot in that film simulation really helps you to be able to do that. And when you bring them through as RAWs, that will remove itself anyway in any post-production software. So you do just be able to focus on what's important. And because we're currently talking about it a little bit, using video, I always use a Turner. I've found a Turner absolutely gorgeous and very friendly with other camera brands when you're filming as part of a team with other people. So it tends to work and play well with other cameras and people trying to match your film simulation. So that's very good. Julia.
So for me, and this kind of also answers Keith's question of what film simulation was I using for my shoot. And I think my favorite's Astia, just because I shoot a lot of portraits. Astia is just like a very soft, beautiful looking simulation, and it has wonderful skin tones as well, which is super important for my work. And then the same with Will, my favorite for video would be a Turner. It's just like really stunning, and you can use that just straight out of the camera without having to grade it anymore. It's just like, it just looks beautiful the way it is. So yeah, those would be my two favorites. I don't know if that breaks the rules, but
yeah. I already did it. That's fine. Lewis, you're up.
Well, we all work, evidently are Acros. I just love it. It's a long time ago, before the whole Acros, simulation came, I kept on romanticizing of getting a black and white digital camera, and then as soon as Acros came, I forgot about it. I just love shooting that. Anything that is personal, I'll just fall into that simulation.
Yeah, cool. We have a few more questions here. I think there's about 3 more before we wrap this up. So one was in regards to drone/gimbal firmware. Will that be available through Fujifilm cameras? Question, and this is a question. I'll direct this to Warwick anyway. Yeah, how have you found it? Because I believe they were releasing some stuff for the Ronin S originally and the Ronin SC. I think that came, didn't it? With adding the firmware for those.
Yes, there's been various firmware upgrades for cameras like the GFX 100 and XT4. I think even XH1 as well, that made them more compatible with the various drones and gimbals. But there's more advanced versions coming as well. And as more advanced gimbals come out, so there'll be more advanced firmware.
Yeah, it's just trying to be as compatible as possible with other major gimbal and drone companies. Next question. Here's a long one. Okay, this is from Keith. Do you recommend any particular dive housings for the XT4? That might be a question for Warwick, because I don't think either of us, Lewis or Julia, are surf photographers at all. But Warwick tends to know a lot about this sort of stuff, so I'll pass that one on to you again, Woz.
The housings that I've trusted have come from Salty Surf Housings. Matt Hipsley down in Wollongong. They're a bit more expensive, but they are custom made, and I like them because you can actually get a housing made for any lens you want on there. There are other Seaview Phototech. Dave Kelly's very good. And of course there are some off-the-shelf ones, but I haven't got a whole lot of them. They're not cheap, but I do like the Salty Surf Housings.
I might ask Russell Ord for some of his feedback on different housings that he can recommend. I know Aquatech go up to our XT3, but not the current XT4 at the moment. So I'll put some notes in the comments below. Okay. And then there was a secondary question, one from Sean that says, I understand that Julia and Lewis are both pro photographers, but did either of you try the advanced auto mode? I think we answered this in our review. Unfortunately, they didn't know what the features would do with it and just treated it like a tool. So they held it in manual mode the whole way through it. So
can I say something about this, because I found it quite fascinating. I've used the various auto modes on our cameras, but this one is something pretty special. It can choose the film simulation to suit the scene you're shooting, and it can actually add, as I said in the presentation, it can actually add various effects. One of the really cool things is we have a lot of stuff in the menu, and if you imagine, even if you know what all those things do, even if you're somewhere, as I said, if I was hanging out of a tourist bus somewhere shooting pictures, you really don't have time to go into the menu and, I'm going to select a bit of clarity here, or I'm going to select a bit more dynamic range. This auto mode just does it in the blink of an eye, and it does it very successfully, and it does actually work. I've tried it quite a bit since discovering what it could do, and it does actually work. It doesn't seem to go over the top with its effects either. It definitely makes the pictures better.
Would it be something that you would use, Lewis, if in your line of work? Because you can dial, if most people don't know, a lot of our automatic modes, you can tell the camera how you want automatic to work with shutter speeds. Is it something you would use in documentary photography at all, or would you just trust your brain?
For me, I would probably more fall in love with using auto ISO. To me, because I'm still the kind of person who likes to control, the the aperture and the shutter. So for me, having that would allow me to. And the other thing too, because I'm kind of person who, if I can go into the darkness, I still want a handheld. I hate carrying tripods. So for me, having that auto ISO is something that I've really begun using more and more. I didn't use it for this test, but it's something that I'm beginning to use much more. But I'm usually, for me, I'm more a manual person. except for autofocus, because I have to wear glasses nowadays.
Getting slightly older. I think I'm losing most of the things. I think glasses are next on the list for me, unfortunately. We're going to wrap up. This is probably the last question. So we feel like we're answering all of them. This one's a little bit back towards Lewis again, unfortunately, but it's in regards to larger lenses on the X-S10. So how did you find using, because yours was the 100 to 400 that you used for a lot of what you were doing. How did you find the 100 to 400 on that body, seeing as it has a grip to sort of help alleviate some of the size difference?
Look, it did. It was still a little bit heavier, to be honest, but not that something that that I would not use. I mean, I used it while doing a lot of demos, and if you think about it, it's everything was very fluid, very rapidly. So it didn't affect me in the picture taking. It's like anything else. I find that once you get used to it, you adapt to it. So to me, it was lovely, and I've never used that lens before because I'm the 100 to 400, but married to that camera, yeah, it worked better because the grip in that camera is quite nice. So it gives you a lot of stability. Had the grip not been there, maybe, I don't know. But with the grip, it was quite, it was very sturdy. If that answers the question. It didn't feel,
it definitely works. I've shot quite a bit with the 50 F1.
Yeah.
And as you can see, it's very safe and secure. That grip, someone's put a lot of thought into that. I find people with smaller fingers have no trouble holding it. People with larger hands have no trouble holding it. And I actually, when I first got the camera, I thought, I'm going to need an accessory grip as I use with other cameras when I put the larger lenses on. But it's quite comfortable. It's a bit of a mystery, actually, as to why it feels so comfortable.
It's a lovely grip, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're going to have to wrap up there, guys, unfortunately, just to tie things up. But I just want to say a huge thank you to Julia for coming and joining us. And Lewis,
thank you so much for having me.
I didn't even switch the camera over to you. That's unfortunate. Thank you to Warwick Williams for leading the front of it. And then we got to thank you as well for Lewis Ascui for coming and having a good chat to us.
Thank you so much.
And really thank you everyone out there who joined us today.
Yeah, very good. Any of the comments that we didn't get back to, we'll answer at the bottom of the YouTube comments. But if in the meantime, you can find both Julia on YouTube and Lewis on Instagram. So feel free to check them out. Thanks for watching us. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.